And to help us explore what this weather pattern means for the economies affected by it, I'm joined from Los Angeles by Kamiar Mohaddes. He's the professor of economics at the University of Cambridge. Kamiar, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Michelle.
So there is potential for what's been called a Godzilla-like El Nino in the tropical Pacific. How likely is it that this weather pattern will develop and materialize?
According to the recent forecast that I have seen, this particular El Nino, this year's El Nino, is becoming stronger and stronger, and there's a 90% chance that it will last beyond winter 2015-16, and 85% chance that it will go into spring, early spring 2016, and it will peak sometime in early winter this year and late fall. And if the forecasts come true, this will be one of the strongest El Ninos on record since 1950.
Hence that name, Godzilla. Well, you know, Kamiar, El Nino will probably have a big macroeconomic impact, particularly on global commodities. We just discussed that. And two of the countries that your report says will likely suffer the harshest negative effects are Indonesia and Australia. Why? Explain what's going to happen there.
In Australia, we notice that in El Nino years we have severe droughts. For instance, taking Southeast Australia, the severity and frequency of bushfires increase, which basically means that wheat exports drop and global wheat prices go up. This is also true for Australia for other commodities that has been exported. We expect that our estimates suggest that there will be a 0.37% drop in Australian GDP, which is quite large. For Indonesia, the El Nino has two effects. First of all, the drought implies that commodity production, such as coffee, cocoa, palm oil, drops. This has puts upward pressure on commodity prices. But the drought also has an effect on the mining industry. In particular, the mining equipment in Indonesia depends heavily on hydropower, and therefore nickel, which is one of the largest, Indonesia is one of the largest exporters of nickel. Nickel exports drop and nickel prices obviously increase in the global economy. So for Indonesia, the El Nino will almost shave off 1% of the GDP growth.
Well, that's going to be pretty significant. But you say that the El Nino may trigger some positive effects for the U.S. How?
Absolutely. For the United States, in a typical El Nino year, what we observe is that we have, here in California, we have more rain, which is obviously good for the agricultural sector, crops and so on. We also have less hurricanes on the East Coast. We have warmer weather in Northeast. And we also have more rain in the South. And this basically boosts agricultural production in the United States and also brings stability to the oil sector on the East Coast.
I get that fewer hurricanes mean that there'll probably be a stability for oil prices on the East Coast. So what does that mean for oil markets overall? I mean, commodities, particularly oil, has been taking a dive price-wise. Do you expect that to continue then?
Actually, our estimates suggest that oil prices will go up following an El Nino year by almost 14%. This is triggered because of two reasons. First of all, because of the drought in Asia Pacific, there is less electricity generated from thermal power plants and hydroelectric dams, and that basically means there is more demand for coal and oil in that region. That puts upward pressure on the oil prices. Also, because water is used by farmers more for irrigation purposes, again, there is more demand for oil and coal in that region. But we also observed that because the United States, China, and the European countries actually benefit from the El Nino year, either directly or through commercial trade channels, what happens is what was initially a demand for oil and coal from Asia Pacific due to loss of electricity generation from hydropower, for instance, now is a global demand for oil. We see global output increasing and oil prices increasing, and we expect, we estimate oil prices to increase by almost 14% over the year.
Wow, 14% increase in oil prices. That is very, very dramatic. You mentioned in your report that Europe is going to benefit from what you describe as a spillover trade effect. Explain that to us.
So basically, our estimates suggest that there are direct benefits. For instance, United States directly benefits from the El Nino, more rain, warmer weather, less hurricanes. But United States is also Europe and United States do commercial trade, engage in commercial trade, as does these countries with China. And through these commercial trade, what we observe is that when the United States economy picks up, that will push up the European countries as well. So that is what we have in mind. There are also other channels through financial markets, but the main ones through the trade channel.
All right, some very far-reaching effects. Thank you so much. A very interesting report. Kamiar Mohaddes, Professor of Economics at the University of Cambridge.